If you are over 60 and you drink your water every single day, 8 glasses, just like you were told, this video is for you. Because what I am about to share with you is something most doctors never mention during a routine checkup. Something that could explain why, despite doing everything right, you still wake up feeling stiff. Why your hands and feet are often cold. Why your energy fades by early afternoon, no matter how well you slept. Why your mind sometimes feels slower than it used to, heavier, like thinking through fog. You have been faithful to your water, and yet your body still feels like it is running on empty. Here is the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. What if the water itself is not the problem, but what is missing from it is? Because there is one simple ingredient, something that is very likely sitting in your kitchen right now, that changes the way your aging body absorbs water, supports your blood vessels, and restores the kind of circulation that makes you feel alive again. By the end of this video, you will never look at your morning glass of water the same way again. But before I tell you what to add, you need to understand why plain water starts failing your body after the age of 60. Because once you see this, everything changes. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you why this conversation matters, and why you can trust what you are about to hear. The connection between hydration quality, blood vessel health, and aging has been studied extensively by researchers at Harvard Medical School, by scientists published in the Journal of Aging and Health, and by cardiovascular specialists who have spent decades asking one simple question: why do so many seniors do everything right and still decline? What I am sharing with you today is not a trend. It is not something I read on a blog or saw on social media. It is the result of serious, peer-reviewed science that most mainstream medicine simply has not made accessible to the people who need it most. People like you. You deserve to have this information. Clearly. Simply. Without being talked down to. Here is what is actually happening inside your body, and why it matters more than most people realize. After the age of 60, 3 significant changes begin to affect your circulation. Not gradually, not eventually. They are happening right now, quietly, in the background of every single day. The first change is arterial stiffening. Think of your arteries at 35 like a flexible garden hose, responsive, elastic, powerful. They expand when blood pushes through, and they spring back with ease. After 60, without proper support, that same hose begins to stiffen. It narrows. It loses its ability to push blood efficiently to your extremities, your brain, your heart. The blood is still moving, but it is working against resistance it was never meant to face. The second change happens in your kidneys. As the kidneys age, they become less efficient at retaining the electrolytes your blood vessels depend on, minerals like potassium and magnesium that regulate vascular tone and fluid balance. Here is the part that surprises most people. When you drink plain water without these minerals present, your body can actually flush out what little remains. More water, less mineral support. It is the opposite of what you intended. The third change is the one almost nobody talks about. Your body's production of nitric oxide, the compound responsible for signaling your blood vessels to relax and widen, drops sharply after 60. Less nitric oxide means narrower vessels, slower circulation, and a heart that has to work harder to move blood through a system that is no longer as cooperative as it once was. And the symptoms? You already know them. Cold hands and feet. That heavy afternoon fatigue that no amount of rest seems to fix. Brain fog. Muscle cramps at night. Slow healing. A body that feels older than you believe you should feel. These are not simply signs of aging. They are signs of circulation under stress. Now here is where most people make a critical mistake. And it is an innocent one, because no one ever told them otherwise. They drink more plain water, thinking that is the answer. But after 60, plain water alone is no longer enough. And here is the science that proves it. So if plain water is not enough, what exactly is missing from it? This is where the science becomes genuinely important. And I want you to understand this clearly because it changes the way you will think about hydration for the rest of your life. There is a critical difference between drinking water and hydrating your cells. Most people assume these are the same thing. After 60, they are not. When you drink plain water, your body still has to work to move that water across cell membranes and into the tissues that need it most. Your arterial walls, your heart muscle, your brain. And here is the problem. That process requires what scientists call osmotic balance, the presence of specific ionic minerals and compounds that act as carriers, essentially escorting water into the cells rather than allowing it to simply pass through. Plain water has no carriers. It has no partners. And an aging body, with declining kidney efficiency and reduced cellular absorption, is far less capable of creating that balance on its own than it was at 40. The result is that millions of seniors are drinking their daily water faithfully and still waking up stiff, tired, and foggy because they are missing this one small but critical piece. Not because they are doing something wrong, because no one ever told them this part of the story. The good news, and there is very good news here, is that restoring that balance does not require medication. It does not require an expensive supplement. It requires one ingredient, one spoon, one simple decision every morning. So what is it? What can you add to a plain glass of water that supports your blood vessels, enhances your circulation, and gives your aging body what it has been quietly asking for? Let's get into it. And I think you are going to be genuinely surprised. The ingredient is apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon, 1 glass of water, every morning. Now, before you move past that, I want you to stay with me for a moment, because I already know what some of you are thinking. I've heard of apple cider vinegar. I've seen it mentioned before. Perhaps you even tried it once years ago and weren't sure what to make of it. What most people don't know, and what I want to give you today, is not simply what it is. It is why it works, specifically, precisely, and powerfully for the aging cardiovascular system, for blood that needs to move more freely, for vessels that need to relax, for a body over 60 that is quietly asking for more support than plain water can provide. This is not a folk remedy passed down without evidence. Apple cider vinegar, specifically raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar with what is called the mother intact, has been studied in peer-reviewed research for its effects on blood viscosity, vascular tone, blood sugar regulation, and cellular hydration. Its mechanisms are real. They are documented, and for adults over 60, they are particularly relevant. 1 tablespoon in your morning water is not a trend. It is not a shortcut. It is a small, deliberate, science-supported act of care for a body that has carried you through decades of life and deserves to be supported accordingly. You may have seen apple cider vinegar mentioned before, but I want to show you something today that goes deeper than anything you have likely read, because what this does to your blood vessels after 60 is genuinely remarkable. Let's go through it, step by step, because once you understand this, that 1 tablespoon in your morning water will feel less like a health tip and more like a daily act of self-care that your body truly needs. Let me walk you through exactly what happens inside your body when you add 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar to your morning water. There are 4 distinct mechanisms at work, and each one matters specifically, directly, and meaningfully for the aging cardiovascular system. Mechanism 1. Acetic acid and blood viscosity. The primary active compound in apple cider vinegar is acetic acid, and one of its most significant and least discussed effects in older adults is its ability to reduce blood viscosity. Blood viscosity simply means how thick your blood is. And as we age, blood can thicken, becoming more resistant to flow, more difficult for the heart to push, and less efficient at reaching the small vessels in your hands, your feet, and your brain. Think of it this way. Imagine trying to push honey through a narrow straw versus water. The effort required is completely different. Thinner blood flows further, faster, and with considerably less strain on your heart. Acetic acid supports that shift, gently, naturally, and without the side effects associated with pharmaceutical blood thinners. Mechanism 2. Nitric oxide stimulation. We spoke earlier about nitric oxide, the compound your blood vessels depend on to relax and widen. After 60, your body produces significantly less of it. Raw apple cider vinegar contains polyphenols, plant-based compounds that have been shown to support the body's natural nitric oxide signaling pathways. In simple terms, they help send the message to your blood vessels that it is safe to open, to expand, to allow blood to move through with less resistance. This is called vasodilation, and for a senior whose vessels have been quietly narrowing for years, even a partial restoration of this process can produce noticeable changes in warmth, energy, and mental clarity. Mechanism 3. Blood sugar stabilization and vascular protection. Here is something that surprises many people. One of the most damaging things happening inside aging blood vessels has nothing to do with fat or cholesterol. It is blood sugar, specifically the kind of chronically elevated blood sugar that millions of seniors carry without realizing it, often described by doctors as borderline or something to watch. Over time, excess glucose in the bloodstream triggers a process called glycation, where sugar molecules attach to and gradually damage the walls of your arteries, making them stiffer, more inflamed, and less functional. Apple cider vinegar has been studied extensively for its ability to moderate blood sugar levels, particularly when consumed before or alongside meals. It slows the rate at which glucose enters the bloodstream, reducing the glycation load on your arterial walls over time. It is, in effect, quietly protecting the structural integrity of your vascular system with every glass. Mechanism 4. Potassium and electrolyte support. Finally, and this brings us back to what we discussed about plain water and osmotic balance. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, with the mother intact, contains trace potassium and actively supports the electrolyte environment your cells need to absorb water properly. Potassium is essential for healthy blood pressure regulation and vascular tone. It is also one of the minerals most commonly depleted in aging adults, particularly those taking certain medications or those who, as we discussed, have been drinking large amounts of plain water without mineral support. When you add ACV to your water, you are not just adding an active compound. You are helping create the ionic environment that allows that water to be genuinely, cellularly absorbed, reaching your arterial walls, your heart muscle, and your brain, rather than simply passing through. 4 mechanisms, 1 tablespoon, every morning. Now that you understand the science, let me show you what this actually looks like in real life, because the changes people experience when they add this one ingredient consistently are not subtle. They are real, they are meaningful, and for many seniors, they are genuinely life-changing. Science is important, but what you really want to know, what matters most, is this: what will I actually feel? So let me walk you through what tends to happen, week by week, when seniors commit to this one simple morning habit consistently. In the first week, most people notice something subtle but meaningful. They wake up with slightly more ease, the stiffness that usually greets them in the morning, that heaviness in the joints, that slow start, begins to soften. Mental clarity through the first half of the day feels a little sharper, not dramatic, but noticeable. And for many seniors, noticeable is exactly what has been missing. By the second week, something more tangible tends to emerge. Hands and feet that were persistently cold begin to feel warmer, a quiet but significant sign that peripheral circulation is improving. Afternoon energy becomes more stable. That familiar crash around 2 or 3 o'clock starts to lose its grip. By weeks 3 and 4, the changes deepen. Post-meal fatigue, that heavy, sluggish feeling after eating that so many seniors simply accept as normal, begins to ease as blood sugar stabilization takes effect. Legs feel lighter, and for some, Blood pressure readings at their next checkup reflect something their doctor notices too. People who commit to this simple habit often describe the same feeling, that their body is waking up again, that something which had been quietly declining is finally being supported, not transformed overnight, supported, consistently, day by day. And to make this even more concrete, let me share a brief story, one that reflects what so many seniors experience, and what becomes possible when they discover this simple change. Let me share a story with you. It is not a medical case study. It is simply the kind of story we hear reflected back to us again and again from people in this community. Margaret is 68 years old, a retired school teacher from the Midwest. By most measures, she was doing everything right. Moderate walks 3 times a week, a reasonably balanced diet, 8 glasses of water every day. For 3 years, she had been dealing with persistently cold hands and feet, an energy wall that hit reliably around 2 in the afternoon, and blood pressure numbers her doctor described, in that familiar phrase, as something to keep an eye on. She wasn't alarmed, but she was tired. Quietly, persistently tired. Her daughter mentioned apple cider vinegar. Margaret was skeptical. It sounded too simple to matter. But she tried it. 1 tablespoon in a glass of warm water, every morning, before anything else. She changed nothing else. 3 weeks later, her hands were warmer, her afternoons were easier, and at her next routine checkup, her doctor looked at her blood pressure reading, then looked at her and said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. No miracle, no dramatic transformation. Just one small habit, honored consistently, quietly doing its work. That is what this is about." Now let me give you the exact protocol, how to prepare this correctly, when to take it, and the details that make the difference between real results and just another thing you tried once and set aside. Now let me give you exactly what you need to do this correctly, because the details here are not complicated, but they do matter. And getting them right is the difference between results you can feel and a bottle sitting unused at the back of your cupboard. Step 1. Choose the right apple cider vinegar. Not all apple cider vinegar is the same. What you are looking for is raw, unfiltered, and organic, with what is called the mother intact. You will see it as a cloudy, slightly murky appearance in the bottle. That cloudiness is not a flaw. It is where the beneficial enzymes and polyphenols responsible for the vascular effects actually live. Clear, distilled, or flavored versions have been processed in ways that remove precisely what makes this work. Read the label. The mother must be present. Step 2. The correct dose: 1 tablespoon. That is 15 milliliters per 8 to 10 ounces of water. That is your daily foundation. If you wish, you may take a second tablespoon later in the day, but never exceed 2 tablespoons in a 24-hour period. More is not better here. Higher doses can irritate the digestive lining and over time affect tooth enamel. Precision matters more than enthusiasm. Step 3. Timing. There are 2 optimal windows. The first is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. This primes your circulation before the demands of the day begin. The second is 20 to 30 minutes before your largest meal. This is where the blood sugar moderation effect is most active. Both are beneficial. Choose the one that fits your routine or alternate between them. Step 4. Water temperature use. Warm or room temperature water. Cold water can cause mild gastric discomfort when combined with ACV and slightly reduces the absorption rate of the active compounds. Warm water also makes the drink more palatable and feels gentler on the system, particularly for those with any sensitivity in the morning. Step 5. Consistency above everything. This is the step that matters most. The benefits of apple cider vinegar are cumulative. They build quietly over days and weeks, not hours. Commit to 21 to 30 days before you evaluate what you are experiencing. 1 tablespoon every day, honored consistently, will always outperform 2 tablespoons taken occasionally. Make it a ritual, The same time, the same glass, every morning. Now, there are a few ways to make this even more powerful. Because apple cider vinegar works beautifully on its own, but when paired with certain other kitchen ingredients, the effect on blood flow can be genuinely amplified. Now, if 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in warm water is your foundation, think of what follows as your options for building something even more intentional. These are not requirements. They are upgrades. Simple, kitchen shelf additions that pair naturally with ACV and amplify what it is already doing for your circulation. Combination 1. ACV with raw honey. Add half a teaspoon of raw, unprocessed honey to your morning glass. Raw honey, not the processed variety, contains flavonoids that have been shown to support arterial flexibility and reduce oxidative stress in blood vessel walls. It also makes the drink significantly more palatable for those who find the sharpness of ACV difficult first thing in the morning. And practically speaking, a drink you enjoy is a drink you will actually take every day. Combination 2. ACV with fresh lemon juice. The juice of a quarter lemon added to your ACV water introduces vitamin C, a nutrient that plays a direct and underappreciated role in collagen synthesis within arterial walls. Healthy collagen means more elastic, more resilient blood vessels. The combination also creates a mild alkalizing effect in the body that helps quiet systemic inflammation, one of the most significant and silent contributors to cardiovascular aging. Combination 3. ACV with a pinch of Himalayan pink. Salt. This addition is particularly valuable for seniors who experience leg cramps, unexplained dizziness, or frequent urination, all common signs of electrolyte depletion. A small pinch of Himalayan pink salt, which contains trace minerals absent from regular table salt, helps restore the ionic environment your cells need for proper hydration and healthy blood pressure regulation. It completes the osmotic balance we discussed earlier, making every glass of water you drink throughout the day work harder for your body. Use one combination or all three. Build your morning tonic in the way that suits you best. What matters is that you are giving your circulatory system deliberate, layered support, not leaving it to manage on its own. Before we close, I want to make sure this is completely safe for you. Because while apple cider vinegar is a natural food, there are a few important things every senior should know before starting. Before you begin, and I genuinely hope you do, there are a few important things I want you to know. Not to discourage you, but because you deserve complete information, not just the parts that sound encouraging. Apple cider vinegar is a natural food. For the vast majority of people over 60, it is safe, well-tolerated, and gentle when used correctly. But correctly is the important word. Protect your tooth enamel. Always drink your ACV water through a straw, or rinse your mouth with plain water immediately afterward. Never sip apple cider vinegar undiluted. The acidity over time can affect enamel. The dilution we discussed protects you, but the straw adds an extra layer of care. If you take certain medications, please speak with your physician before starting. Specifically, diuretics, insulin, or digoxin. Apple cider vinegar can influence potassium levels and blood sugar in ways that may interact with how these medications work. This is not a reason to avoid it. It is simply a reason to have a brief, informed conversation with your doctor first. If you have acid reflux or gastritis, begin with 1 teaspoon rather than a full tablespoon, and give your body 1 to 2 weeks to adjust before increasing the amount. Many people with mild digestive sensitivity find that warm water and the gradual approach makes all the difference. And if you are managing chronic kidney disease, please consult your physician before adding ACV to your routine. The potassium content and acidity are factors your care team should weigh in on directly. For most seniors, none of these apply. This is safe, this is gentle, and this is simply one of the most accessible things you can do for your cardiovascular health every single morning. Being informed is not a barrier to starting. It is part of doing it right. Now, I want to leave you with something important because I think you deserve to hear this directly. I want to leave you with this. What you have been experiencing, the fatigue, the stiffness, the coldness in your hands and feet, the fog, the afternoons that feel heavier than they should, none of that is simply getting older. None of that is something you are obligated to accept as the fixed price of the years you have lived. It is, in large part, a body that has not been given what it needs. Not because you failed it, but because no one told you what it was asking for.